All right, good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, November 10th, 2020, and welcome to Mornings with the Managers. Every 2 weeks, you and I are meeting, and I want to share things that are going on in the city of Monterey, and I hope they are the messages, the information that I share with you, you find relevant. As always, if you have questions, please send me your questions. Type them online right now, or if you want, you can also send me those messages via separate email. I want to talk about four topics today. Topic number one will be talking. Unfortunately, I cannot spare that. I also talk about the elections. I want to talk then briefly about our budget. I want to talk about a major agenda report that is coming forward to the council in the beginning of December. And then, of course, I want to talk about COVID-19. With all that, let me start now talking about the Monterey election results. As I promised you, I cannot spare you not talking about the elections. The elections in the city of Monterey have been decided. I don't think we have to fear a recount or a lawsuit from one of the candidates demanding to check that all the votes were legal. So I think the elections are out. The final result, of course, has not been posted yet by the Monterey County Elections Office. So far, we have 7 updates received from the Monterey County Elections Office, and Mayor Clyde was reelected with 60% of the votes, according to the latest update number 7. And Dan Albert was reelected with 30% of the votes, and Councilmember Ellen Hoffa was reelected as well as with 28% of the votes. So the mayor was clearly elected with an overwhelming majority of 60%, and Dan and Ellen are back in the council with 30 to 28% respectively. What is interesting also, I think, that I wanted to share with you is what our county voted for some of the propositions that were probably relevant for all of us that were coming forward. Proposition 15 was a big one. That was the one that was basically starting to tax commercial properties based on their present value and not give them a tax break like Prop 13 long time ago did when it froze the real estate values with respect to the purchase price when those properties were acquired. So Prop 15 was designed to adjust the commercial real estate pricing to with certain exceptions. And Prop 15 was soundly defeated in the county of Monterey. It was interesting that 51% voted in favor of Prop 15, meaning in favor of taxing commercial properties. Yet statewide, about 52% voted no. So interesting. Our county voted very slightly different than the state. Prop 15 has failed. So with that, the state has a little funding issue of $11.5 billion. $11.5 billion would have come out of that tax measure, Prop 15, and $11.5 billion would have gone to schools and would have gone also to local governments. By having that funding hole now, the state of California, of course, has to figure something out, and Governor Newsom and his team probably will look at reducing services in certain areas. And we have heard this song play a couple of times before, so just stay tuned. But Prop 15 failed statewide, and I think the Associated Press actually yesterday called that measure as failed. Prop 16 was an interesting proposition also, where basically It would have allowed diversity as a factor in public employment and education, etc. And this Prop 16 failed. It failed resoundingly in the county with 59% voting no, and in the state with 56% voting no. So Prop 16 it was an interesting proposition with respect to allowing diversity being a factor when making hiring decisions, and the county as well as the state wide both soundly defeated that measure. Talking about defeating measure, Prop 21 was another one that was interesting for all of us here on the peninsula, but also for the state. Prop 21 was basically a rent control measure that's in very broad strokes, describing what it would have accomplished. There is a previous act, the Costa-Hawkins Act, that exempts certain property from any rent control measures, and Prop 21 would have allowed local governments to, again, take all properties under consideration when creating local rent control measures. Prop 21 was defeated also by the county as well as the state with a good majority. 58% in the county said no to Proposition 21, and 60% in the state said no to Proposition 21. Again, that is an interesting outcome, as well as we are living in a very high rent area here on the Monterey Peninsula, and we all realize also that some sort of market shifts have to take place as we see that folks are moving in with high-end wages, many of them coming from the Silicon Valley area now and are telecommuting from the peninsula. And we really don't see a shift in the market there. So Prop 21 was an interesting gauge to see how the sentiments are here in the area. With all of those things, of course, you will see that sooner or later the data will be presented to the city of Monterey, also based on how the city voted. And I'm really looking forward to see how our residents voted on all the various measures, because that will also give us and the council, mainly the council, because they are the policymakers, some interesting indications of where the council or where the residents stand on topics such as rent control, such as Prop 15 taxation. So I wanted to highlight those three propositions as well, because I felt they were very interesting for the county, for the city, as well as giving you the statewide updates on those. Last but not least, and that's very important for me as well to mention it, Measure Y has passed with 74% of the votes. And there's an unwritten rule or an unwritten understanding between pollsters and others elected officials. Once you hit over 66%, it's kind of unanimous. So 74% is a very very good result for the 2% increase for the hotel tax. I want to thank all of you who have voted for that, and I want to especially point out that we had quite a few folks, neighbors, activists that are active in neighborhood associations or in other associations who really help us help carry that over the finish line. As you know, the city of Monterey as a city organization is prevented from issuing any other things than just the facts about any tax measure. We cannot advocate for it. And so when the council puts something out for in front of the voters, the council either depends on themselves to promote that, or they depend on other groups organizing themselves promoting that. In this case, I can truly see and say Measure Y was a grassroots organization organized by a few very engaged residents, and those few really multiplied through all the different means that the neighborhoods had over their own email newsletters, through Nextdoor and others. And again, I'm very grateful for Measure Y, the approval of Measure Y, because starting January 1st, the hotel tax will raise from 10 to 12%. And with that, for this fiscal year, we are expecting an increase of hotel tax of about $1.2 million. Now, trust me, this is not a lot of money for the current year. And as you know, the pandemic, COVID-19, is hitting us very hard in our city budget with respect to hotel tax and sales tax. But $1.2 million, believe me or not, is helping us very much. It will not bring back all the 102 positions that we eliminated in June, but it will help us definitely to preserve existing services in many critical areas. And as we are going forward into the next fiscal years, of course, this will pay dividend. And the reason why it was a two-third majority vote was also that we wanted to ensure that 16% of the whole hotel tax that we collect will go back to the NCIP. And one of the arguments that the neighbors made early on was that they said, we like to bring 2% forward under the condition that it stays also with the NCIP, because we want to bring back a lot of the projects that we uh, uh, that we took away as part of our budget rescue missions in April. And again, the NCIP at that time was very collaborative and allowed the council to make those tough decisions. But again, the 2% will allow us to catch up faster with a lot of those projects that we have tabled. So again, my gratitude to all of you who voted for it, and my special thanks to all of you that helped us to run that unofficial grassroots campaign. And it's one of the elements of my pride to work in the city of Monterey, where we have so many well organized neighborhoods that are ready to help and support, but also always ready to give us their 2 cents when we have any topics in front of us. In this case, also it paid off very, very nicely. And again, thank you for doing that. So I spoke to you about the elections. Finished with Measure Y, and with that, allow me to talk briefly about our budget. We have completed a budget exercise in the city of Monterey. What this meant was, over the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, our departments were asked to look at their expenses and look also at their corresponding losses in revenues or incoming revenues. And I can share with you that we will present that to the council also in December with an update, and tell them where we are. TOT is coming in as expected. We are averaging about $1.2 million each month. Let me put this into perspective. We are about 68% down in TOT that we received in previous years. So that's a very hard hit for us. But we have, unfortunately, we had to prepare the organization for that through position eliminations, salary reductions, and also through budget reductions. And we have the organization almost in line for that. So TOT comes in as expected. The shot in the arm through Measure Y will help us a little bit. It will basically give us a 13th month of average TOT payments in fiscal year 2021. The sales tax is coming in lower, way lower than we expected. Measure G, that was the sales tax measure that was approved by the voters in March, with, I think, I don't know the numbers anymore, but it was also in the 70 percentile. That measure helps us offset this, as well as half a cent additional tax revenues comes to the city of Monterey. So the combination of those tax measures help us. They are not really helping us dramatically to get to a very, very safe and sound place, but it really helps us in a way that our budget devastation is a little bit mitigated by those additional incomes. I also spoke with a tax assessor, tax collector, tax assessor for properties, Mr. Vanini, recently, and as you can tell, the property tax has some positive inflows when you look at the unfortunate increase in housing sales here in Monterey, meaning the median prices are increasing dramatically, and there will be some positive tax outflow for us, but it will not be that much because as a city of Monterey, we really do not depend on property taxes as much as other cities. Our main income is remain the hotel tax and the sales tax, and then comes property tax. In most of the cities in California, it's the other way around. Property tax is their highest income. As a matter of fact, just a little trivia to throw in: Monterey is the second city in the state of California dependent on hotel tax. And the first one is, you guessed it right, Anaheim, with the Disneyland there. So it goes forward now with a COVID briefing that I wanted to give you, because of course our budgets are devastated because we are seeing a strong reduction in many of our revenue sources. The conference center business is dead. The hotels are showing very low occupancy rates, probably on average now 55%. And of course, as I stated before, the sales tax is hurting us as well, because many folks have shifted their purchases to online sales, and that you can tell that is eating away from our revenues. COVID-19 is, as you can see on the national side, spiking. We have not turned the corner, despite popular statements by other folks way higher than me. But we have not turned the corner, and you see the numbers also in the state of California rising. The county tried to ask for an exception to get into a lower tier, going into the red tier, making some arguments about some kind of statistics that weren't really acknowledged by the state. Unfortunately, when they made that argument parallel, you saw our numbers increasing again, and they were increasing pretty significantly. And as expected, I had expected, as expected, the state on Tuesday said, California or County of Monterey, you're not getting into the red tier. As a matter of fact, on Tuesday, the state brought 11 other counties up into the next higher tiers. They basically brought in, for instance, the county of San Diego, the county of Sacramento, etc., back into the purple tier. That's where we are from the beginning of this tiered system. So for right now, again, we are staying in COVID-19 purple tier. That means that outdoor dining is allowed, but nothing indoors. That means also that gyms have to be closed, and we were very hopeful a little bit to open up the sports center soon, and with that also the swim gym and opening the pool up again. We have to remain closed right now. I heard this morning a statement by the New York Governor Cuomo, who basically said you can always replace money, but you can never replace a human life. And as such, that should be also our guiding principle, that we need to be aware that this is a public health crisis. Yes, it's also a huge economy crisis, and then we have to deal with that one way or another as well, because the outcomes of that may result in increased social service need, homelessness, crime activities. But first and foremost, it is a public health crisis, and we have to tackle that. I want to share with you briefly that community leaders are convening sometime next week to discuss what we can do as a community to further restrict or to further bring our numbers up here with respect to COVID-19. That is an initiative that is spearheaded by the Community Foundation, and I welcome the opportunity that we meet on a community-wide spectrum with industry leaders, with political leaders, with administrators from different cities to discuss options how we bring that forward. My opinion is, last but not least, is the pandemic is dictating our course. We need to be always respectful of that. The virus knows when the virus will end, not us. And of course, we are all hopeful that all the other measures that people are working on, vaccinations, etc., are treatment options, etc., that those are helpful for us, and I think they will. And I think really we are probably in a phase right now of 3 to 6 months where we um, still have to hang in there and figure out things. Again, we have a strong leadership in the state. That's something to be mindful of and appreciative of, because not every state in the union has a leadership that is looking very closely at those numbers and is not shying away from implementing stronger measures. And the same applies here in the city of Monterey. Our council has been many times on the forefront of many measures, and others have followed our lead. So we have to be very cognizant on all of that. We'll meet next week with industry leaders, political leaders, administrators, private nonprofits, etc., to figure out, to discuss what else can we do to create a safe working environment here in the county of Monterey. So I will dutifully report that back to you and also to our council after I've attended that meeting, and I'm pretty sure that the media will cover the outcome of that meeting as well. I skipped over the third item, and I apologize for that. So I wanted to talk about what we will be presenting to council in early December, because I really want you all to be paying close attention to that and help us with your input. That is in early December, first meeting in December. Currently, we have planned to discuss with you the rollout of commercial cannabis operations in the city of Monterey. We have developed a staff, we have developed a plan, a roadmap that we are going to present to the council. I depend on your input, and there will be various points to check in with the staff and with the council. It will be a very transparent process, and it will be a process that will require all of us to make decisions. We need to come to terms with where do we want to operate commercial cannabis operations, in what part of our city, how do you want to see those businesses operate, etc. And those questions all will be part of all our homework in the next couple of months, 6 to 8 months, to figure out what we want as a community. And again, referring back to Measure Y, where we had the strong support and input from neighbors and community activists, I'm very sure that by just reaching out and talking to each other, we will come to hopefully solution that we all can agree to. So I will present that in December to the council. And again, the product will not be perfect, and it depends to get all your input as well as the council's input, and then we will going forward and implement commercial cannabis operations. It will be not a race. It will be not a sprint. It will be a thoughtful process, and it will be a process where we really want to try to not leave anyone behind. Okay, so with that, I conclude my mornings with the managers. I encourage you again If you have questions, if you have comments, I always appreciate them. I always respond to them. I wish you a nice day. Please stay safe. As you see, we are in a real spike right now in the county, as well as in the state, as well as in the nation. And wear your mask, socially distant, wash your hands. Don't celebrate with family members you don't know. Trust me, next Thanksgiving will be different, and it is important to realize that next year's Thanksgiving will be there. And trust me, I think we will all sit around the table and make sure that everyone who is today available will be sitting around the table next year as well, whatever you're celebrating. So with that, I appreciate every single one of you, and we all will stay the course and we get through that very, very, very soon. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for listening.